Helen here. Welcome to my channel. Today's card I'm going to start off by making a stitched panel for my card, which is 5 by 7 inches. Now I don't have a die that's the right size for doing this panel because my cards are bigger than the usual stitch rectangle die size, so I'm going to have to use this Sue Wilson lettuce frame die, and I'm going to modify it so it's the right width. It's just too deep, so I'm going to start off by cutting it. My first cut with the die overhanging my card slightly. I'm using watercolor card for this, so I've made it so that it's slightly deeper than what I want my end result to be, and I'll run that through the die cutting machine. When I've taken the die off and I'm left with a cut piece, I'm going to then reset the die overhanging the other end to make it the width that I want. And I've got to wriggle the die around a little bit just to make sure it seeps into the stitches that I've already cut. I'd flip it over and just make sure that I've got the cutting part of the die lined up on the edge of the card, and then I'll run it through the die cutting machine again. One little spot didn't cut right through, but I wasn't going to run it through again just in case I messed it up, so I'll just trim it with a pair of scissors. This is my actual second go. The first one I didn't line up very well and ended up cutting slightly crooked. I'm now going to do some stamping, so I'll use the Misty just because I can do multiple flowers at the same time. I'm using this W+9 stamp that I haven't used in a little while. It's called Modern Peonies, and I really love the flowers, but they're very detailed, so it does take quite a bit of colouring, but I'm going to do some quite simple colouring today. I'm going to start off by stamping the sentiment. I'm using the sentiment out of the same peony set, and I'm going to use this acetate grid that I downloaded from My Sweet Petunia, who's the company that makes Misties. I just downloaded it and printed it on acetate myself. It just helps line up the sentiment because I'm quite good at getting them crooked, so I'll just use that to make it straight. I'll stamp that with VersaFine Onyx Black ink and put some clear embossing powder on it. I find when I'm stamping sentiments, you're better off doing a couple of goes at the stamping just very lightly rather than one heavy stamping, especially with this Tim Holtz watercolour paper that I'm using. It's quite bumpy, so I definitely usually need to do it a second time. So what I do is just ink it, just press it very lightly, just almost like kissing the stamp onto the card, and then do it a second time, and you make sure that you get all the ink into bumpy watercolour paper. And then I can do the secondary stamping, also doing several goes at that just very lightly, and then once I've done that I can put the embossing powder on it and will heat emboss both of them. Once the sentiment's stamped, I can now see where I'm going to need to put my flowers. I'm using this set that's got 2 main peony flowers and a little bud, and also a variety of leaves. So I'm going to start off by doing the main big flower and a bud beside it, and the side view of the flower just over from that. Have a little bit of a play around with where I'm going to place the leaves and things, just so that I can make sure I've got all the spacing right. And once I've got them how I want them, I can put the lid down and pick up all 3 flowers and stamp them, this time with Versamark sticky ink and white embossing powder. I've then made some masks of the flowers with some Inkadinkado masking paper just by stamping the flower onto the paper and then cutting it out, and that just allows me to stamp the leaves without covering the flowers at all. And then when I remove the masks, it will look like the leaves are behind the flowers slightly. So I just carry on working my way around the card, making sure I keep the sentiment area free, popping some leaves in between the flowers. So I emboss them all with the white embossing powder, and then once I'm finished with all that, I'll be able to start colouring. I'm now going to do some simple colouring with my zigs. If you don't enjoy watching the colouring, you might like to just skip through to the end. I'm just going to be using some yellows and some blues. I know you can't get blue peonies, but it's called artistic license. I just wanted to do something other than pinks and purples and things, so I thought blue and yellow would be quite nice. So the main big flower I'm going to do with yellows, so two different yellows plus the water brush, and an amber colour that I'm going to use for the very centre of the flowers, and then I've just got a couple of blues, a blue and a turquoise. So I start by just putting some dark colour down by the base of each of the petals, and just using the lighter colour of the yellow to spread that colour, blend it, and then go right to the tip of the petal for all the smaller ones. But for the larger ones, what I'll do is I'll stop the lighter yellow before I get to the outside of the petal, and then just use the water brush to spread it just so it's going lighter. So I'll continue finishing this flower. I'll pop some music on if you do want to watch me colour. I will skip through some of it. It did take me quite a wee while. Towards the end I will show you quite close up what I meant by the blending of the colours. So I'll leave you for now and I'll be back shortly. With doing the leaves, I've picked two totally different greens. One's a kind of soft pale green, and the other one is a more olivey green. I just think the olive green just helps tone down the lighter green and makes it a little bit more realistic looking. I wouldn't normally put those two colours together, but I think it works quite well, and I'm just putting little touches of the olive green along the stems and the middle vein of the leaf, just to give a little bit of I don't know, dimension, and to try and make it a little bit more realistic. I wanted to show you really close up what I'm doing for the colouring. It really is very simple. People find it really intimidating, but it actually is quite easy, and you just do petal by petal, and before you know it you've got a beautiful flower painted. So what I do is put some of the darkest colour round the base of the petal where a petal would be overlapping it and causing shades. So just colour some dark around the base of the petal, then use your lighter colour to and I go over the edge of the darker colour, so I'm kind of blending the two colours together, and then I do the rest of the petal with the lighter colour. And if I'm using the water brush, I only go part way up the petal with the lighter colour, and then I do exactly the same with the water brush. I overlap it so that you're blending the edge of the where you've just coloured, and then I just go out to the outside of the petal with the water brush so that you're using just a little bit of the colour and mainly water, and that gives you a nice watercolour look without actually much effort at all. I'm afraid the camera kept focusing on my hand rather than what I was painting, so every now and then it goes a little bit blurry, so I apologise for that. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I guess what you're doing is making sure that you put the dark colour against where you've just coloured the light colour, so that you're defining each petal and making it look like it's just slightly above the next one that you're colouring. So you're going dark to light, and then the next petal above that would be dark to light again, so that you're just always making it look like it's got a pale edge to the petal. I hope that makes sense. Now that I've finished all the colouring, I'm going to cut my sentiment out of the middle of it. Now, some people would find that quite scary. I am going to put it back together again. It just gives a little bit of dimension. So I've got a inside-outside oval die here. It just means that it does stitching either side of the cut line. So it'll be stitching around the cut, the negative and the positive part of the oval. So I'll cut that out in the middle. And then what I'll do is put some craft foam on the back of the main part of the card, and just double-sided tape on the oval sentiment part in the middle. And then I'll stick that down onto my card base, just so that I then can line up the flowers on the inside part of the oval that I've just put the double-sided tape on. So just line it up and put it down, and it just means that that is recessed below the main part of the card. You don't have to do that. I just feel that things like that just make the difference between an amazing card and just a nice card. So just brings it up to another level, I think. To finish off the card, and again, this isn't necessary, but I just thought it would pretty up the card, is I'm going to put some pretty pink posh sparkling clear sequins just a couple of places dotted around the sentiment part of the card. So I'll use the jewel picker to pick that up after I put some little dobs of glue on, and then that really is the card finished. Now, apologies for how long this video's taken. I've thought it was going to actually be quite a quick video this time, but I didn't want to cut too much of the painting out, because some viewers like to watch the painting part of it, so do skip through the bits that you don't want to see. I assure you I won't be offended if you do. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. At the end I'll have another couple of videos that you might enjoy, and if you click on the picture of me, then that's where you can subscribe. So I'll see you all next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.